afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid. A channel I'm creating not just to bring the awareness around the lived reality of trauma, what it's like to live day to day when you've experienced complex trauma, but I also want to delve into what I've learned over many, many years that I believe is truly helpful in not just understanding what is going on within you and how to make better use of the resources you have, but in just to improve the quality of your life, to start to make the changes that support everything you do to try to change and heal. Now, in this video, I want to start to bring together the reasons why the last 6 or 7 videos are so important in the understandings of how our nervous system has changed through our traumatic experiences and what it's taken from us. And in other facets as well within our physiological makeup. And that is, when you look at trauma in our society, when you look at trauma, like if you're looking at an adult advocating for perpetrators from child abuse of 30, 40 years ago to be held to account, the traumatic side of it is dismissed because people think that, well, it's so long ago, it's just a memory. When you look at DV survivors and so forth, I wonder why they keep recreating that same circumstance. When you look at the destructive nature of those that have gone through, systemic child neglect and child abuse, how they get to a point in their life and then they dismantle it. And society gets to this point of going, well, they're doing it to themselves. The reality is far from that as you can get. That is nowhere near true, even though on the surface it may look like that. The reality of trauma, when you go through traumatic experiences to the degree that it creates a free state and develops a functional free state, when fight or flight hasn't worked, when you're being so disempowered that there is nothing you can do to stop what's being done to you from happening, it creates a survival state of how do I get through this? And there's nothing within that survival state other than to survive. There is no build for the future because the body doesn't believe there is a future. The body is still stuck in the points when bad things were happening and we're just trying to get through it alive. There is no forward dreaming or planning or hoping of wondrous things. There is just survival and how do I get through this? The reality of when you go through protracted periods of trauma, especially in developmental years and in early life, is the majority of our physiology never leaves that traumatic environment. It's developed there. Its structures of how to get through it are revolving around that. And because of that, we create an ecology that can only produce those kinds of difficulties, those kinds of hardships. An easy example of when you see a woman who has gone through domestic violence jump from one abusive partner to the next, and people go, well, that's her fault. Yeah, she's making the choices, but they're the only choices she has to make because she is seeking someone that can protect her from the person that she's running away from, that she's trying to leave. There are no other assessments other than trying to seek a place of survival and safety. And if somebody offers that in any degree, there are no assessments of the warning potential, the warning signs that need to be addressed. It's just, I need to get to this place of safety. There is no forward thinking, forward planning. There is none of the stuff that people assume is there. When you're looking at survivors of child abuse and they get to this point of absolute success and then annihilate everything they're trying to create, same thing. When things start to break out and get into this place of potential, prosperity, the unknown aspect of that is a direct threat to the survival state. And the survival state, the ecology that the survival state comes from, will not produce what is required to work with that. Therefore, it's a threat. Therefore, it needs to go away. And it's the only aspect that can be sought because it's the only aspect our threat responses and the system of survival that we created to get through some pretty bad stuff knows. It's like expecting someone to know the words to describe something when they've never learned them. It's like expecting the nervous system to know how to interpret things when it's never experienced them. As I said, I've addressed this in several other videos in different areas. There is this unbelievable level of expectancy that somebody that has gone through, severe trauma, protracted and long-term periods of trauma and threat, to magically know how to live in a non-threatening environment. The only way to work with this is to physically introduce ways for the nervous system and our neurophysiology, our body, to learn that the environment around us is different now. The only way we can do this is to have tens of thousands of examples, little tiny examples that we are seeing and recognized. This is safe, the threat is past, that we're protected, that we have enough food, that we have enough safety, security, shelter, and all the facets around belonging. Reminder to us that can overlay any other threat responses that we could perceive for a long enough period of time to show us that things have actually changed. And then through that, we build a network of, working with healing attachment trauma tool. We create a group of people around us that we are a part of. And then through our experiences, our physical interactions with them, our emotional interactions with them, our vocal interactions with them, all the experiences we have with that group teaches us how to relearn how to connect, how to interact, how to be part of, and how to belong. That is how we get out of the threat aspect of the survival nature created through complex trauma. There are many different ways to create this. But singular things in our society, like finding a really good therapy and a really good therapist, awesome. But that is just part of everything that we need. And we need to have the ability to create enough of all the other components at the same time. This is not a linear thing. This is a spherical thing. This is an ecology thing. Our ecology needs to support the work that we're doing with a therapist. Hence why I'm trying to make this channel, explain this through the videos here. Is so that we can start to reintroduce to our nervous system. Getting our nervous system first into a place where it's open to reassessing. Getting enough safe to where our nervous system and our neurophysiology goes, okay, I'm in a safe enough spot at the moment. I can start to accept the potential of new information, new input. Once we get to that point, we need to have the new input there. The whole point of therapy is to get us to that point of new input. We need to have around us what we need, not just in the room with the therapist, but we need to have enough within our physical ecology, within the world that we interact with every day, to support and to take the place of that new information, to provide the environment that our nervous system can assess that things are actually changed, that the threat environment that is so readily and prevalent there has changed. That takes time, it takes understanding, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes support. And like I said in the beginning of this video, the reason of making this particular video is getting the understanding that for the majority of people that have gone through complex trauma, our physiology has never left that threat. It's maybe decades ago, but as far as our nervous system, it's still here and it's still present. We need that understanding in society because society is the world, the physical world that we're going to interact with to provide, when our nervous system is ready for a new input, that society is going to provide what we need. And if they assume that it's our fault that we're in the circumstances that we are because what bad happened to us happened decades ago, it's simply not going to provide anything other than threat, anything other than judgment or hostility. And it will just reinforce what it is we're actually trying to change. And every time we get to this point where we start to actually open up to the possibility of change, if we are met with hostility, it is 10 times harder to get to this point the next time. And the path that we took cannot be walked again. we need to find a different path, because our nervous system will go, it only leads to harm. We can't negotiate with our subconscious threat responses and all the neurological components of our threat responses, our survival state, when it won't let us input new information. So if we go down a therapeutic path and it doesn't work, we need to seek a completely different therapeutic path. Otherwise, we will have the same outcome, and we're just wasting resources that we can put to better use. So, in getting the message through from this video, as I've said, our body is not left to threat response. So saying that, it happened so far ago is irrelevant. As far as our neurophysiology, it is still present in our environment today, and every part of us is still assessing all the markers of that potentiality. So when we get out through negotiation with our nervous system, through that, working with a therapist or working with friends, or however we're choosing to do it within a belief system, we get to the point where our nervous system is ready to receive new information. We need to also have the physical ecology around us to provide that new information in physical experiences. The words will not touch this. Telling somebody you can get there and this magic stuff will happen won't work. It's like a garden. You can wish a garden into being, but if the work is not done to create the garden, it won't be there when you want it to be. We need to put the work in to create the garden, to support and become that new information for our nervous system to assess. I hope this is making sense to you all. I welcome you guys' comments and questions. I will continue to make videos around this and explaining quite often the same things from different perspectives, in the hope that it gets the understanding through, that enough people can get that aha, I get it now. The whole wrestling of 50 cats things is we need to get all these different balls heading in the right direction at the same time, and we can't do it alone. But we need to change society's understanding in doing so that we have the support to be able to help us get all these different balls heading in the right direction. I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be mindful, please be safe, and I'll see you all next time. Hope.